Learn the most empowering hiring techniques. Land the most desirable talent. Launch your company towards massive success. This is the Higher Power Radio Show with your host, Rick Gerard.
All right, Kim is a sharp, seasoned marketing director at a scaling company. She's built teams before and she knows what great looks like. And right now she's tearing her hair out trying to find it. Now, Kim's thinking, where are the A players, the ones who actually get stuff done? Why am I only hearing from people who think that growth hacking is a personality? Now, she vents to her colleague who tells her, hey, well, maybe your job post isn't saying anything worth responding to. Boom, gut punch. Here's the thing. Top performers don't get excited by vague titles and team spirit slogans. They want to know, what am I responsible for? What does success look like in the role? And how will I win here? And Kim, she's about to learn how to fix it, starting with performance metrics that actually mean something. In today's episode, we're going to break down a simple, powerful way to craft performance metrics for your job descriptions that engage your most hireable candidates. I'm Rick Gerard, and welcome to the Higher Power Radio Show. We help entrepreneurs and executives win the strongest people. We do so by sharing insights from top performing rebel entrepreneurs, game changers, and industry leaders. Now, I'm a recovering headhunter who successfully built and exited 2 executive search firms. I'm the founder of Interru, creator of Hire OS operating system, author of the best-selling book, Healing Career Wounds, and someone who is just passionate about your company's growth. So I want to start out with a question, which is, why do high performers and passive talent tune out from your job descriptions or your job posts? Now look, let's be honest. Your job posts do not really differentiate you from any other job post. They're vague, they're generic, they're common, and common job descriptions are just poor branding. Now, if your marketing team put out a job description or put out marketing content that was like your job descriptions, you would probably fire them. So look, when you put out a common job description, what you're broadcasting to the world is, we're too lazy to differentiate ourselves from our competitors. When job descriptions lack clarity around skills, the role, and the impact, top talent, or people that are not actively looking for jobs, passive talent, like I like to call them, they just assume it's not a fit, so they pass. And this is where we kind of delve into the critical elements that are missing. So what's missing in a job description, right? Performance metrics. So I'm going to introduce this and talk a little bit about performance metrics in why this is so critical in a job description. Performance actually introduced the concept of what the actual work is and how the person's going to be evaluated in their first 30, 60, or 90 days. Is there opportunity for personal and professional growth within the role? And then we're also demonstrating how the right person fits into the company. Now, if we look at most job descriptions, they're written for compliance, not attraction. So they do not speak to your ideal candidate profile. They're designed to be inclusive, to get everybody to respond. But there's a problem with that. If you don't target the ideal candidate, marketing 101, right? If you don't know who your ideal candidate profile is or your ICP is, you're just getting everybody who's responding, and you're setting yourself up to spend a lot of time interviewing people that are not going to do well in your organization. So there's also a secondary kind of thing that that is going on out there of ghost jobs or surface level ads. There's a lot of posting that goes on, and recent studies have shown that actually 20% of job ads are ghost listings. So they're either unfilled or they're not intended to hire, but they're put up to essentially attract candidate flow so that somebody else can get hired or an internal candidate can get hired in the role. right? So it turns off high caliber talent because they smell the red flags. They've seen it before, they've experienced it. Happens more often in larger organizations who post a lot than it does smaller ones, but it's still at the top of people's mind. Now, let's talk about AI optimized or poorly worded listings, right? So, AI optimization is happening at the job description level. At best, what it's doing is it's creating language for DEI. So, it's inclusive language that is primarily getting everybody to apply. Um, and but there's a danger with that. The danger is that the language doesn't truly reflect the company's culture or core values. It's designed not to not to repel everybody, but to be inclusive of everybody who's who's looking for a job or who thinks that uh, they might do well there. But again, every company has a culture. Every company has core values. Now, whether or not they're in alignment with the words on the wall, um, that's another question altogether and an entirely new episode. However, if you create the language in and around the core values, you're not setting people up for failure. You're setting people up to succeed. Job descriptions should not be written to be all inclusive to everybody. They should be written so that the right people lean in and the people who don't bow out. I'm going to say that again. Job descriptions should be written so the right people lean in. The people that are going to thrive in your company environment are going to lean in. And the people who are not going to thrive in your company environment are going to bow out. So let's talk about the job description generators that are out there. So what they focus in on is role-based customization. So they focus on basically the skills that may be necessary for the person to be ideal in the role. Perfect. So if you don't know how to create a job description from scratch, you can put in, we're looking for a growth marketer. And it will create kind of a framework based on what a growth marketer does. Perfect as a starting point. It'll also help with keyword targeting, SEO optimization, and ATS optimization. Again, good if you're looking for a starting point. But the problem is we want to get the right people leaning in your company, right? So again, what it's doing is creating standard job descriptions that work really well for spray and pray. And we want to get ourselves out of that spray and pray mode. We want our business to stand out from our competitors. Passive candidates don't often rely on job boards. As a matter of fact, they might check them um, maybe once a month or when they have kind of a weird day at work and they go, God, you know what? There's got to be something better out there. But when they check, um, if if they don't see anything that really stands out to them or really speaks to them directly, right? They're not going to even see the post or actually even respond to it because it's just another job post. And I hate to say this, but your company, as wonderful as you think it is, your job post most likely reflects that you're just a common company and there's nothing special about you. So I always giggle when I hear the question, well, when I interview people, I ask them, why do they want to work for us? Well, the truth is, most people either want to work for you because they need a job or because there's some sort of value there that they've uncovered unbeknownst to your job description, right? So now there's also a concern about like too much male-centric wording often deters female high performers from responding. This is where when you focus back on core values, right? The behaviors that drive core values, not language, that transcends male-centric wording versus female-centric wording, um, in my opinion. Now, I know I'm going to have people that want to argue with me on this, and we'll happily debate that. But the truth is, how your business operates from a behavioral perspective, that's what you want to convey to the world. Are you listening to the Higher Power Radio Show? I'm your host, Rick Gerard, and for our podcast listeners, we're going to take a quick educational moment from our sponsors. All right, so we're talking about job descriptions and performance metrics, and we're going to talk about now how to best leverage building out job descriptions, but then leverage AI to build those job descriptions to attract the strongest people for your business. So I'm going to give a solution overview, right? We're going to talk about performance metrics in terms of 30, 60, and 90-day timeframes. Now, the benefits of performance metrics is one, it signals clarity and shared expectations to whoever joins this role. 99.999% of job descriptions out there do not have performance metrics built into their job descriptions. So automatically you're differentiating yourself out from all of your competition. So if you're giving people a clear signal of how to be successful in the role, you're going to attract a higher caliber of talent. So you're going to attract serious, goal-driven high performers. The other thing that performance metrics does is it signals an investment into your people's success from day one. It shows that you take things seriously in your business and you know how to win. High performers want to know how they want to know they can win in your company and how to win there, right? So there's some I'll link it in the show notes, but there's some really interesting data that we found on LinkedIn. Structured metrics improve onboarding effectiveness by uh, the framework's actually seeing a 70% faster productivity. So after somebody's hired, 70% faster productivity and an 82% higher retention rate for candidates that are hired. Now that's unbelievable. Again, if you are putting this out to the world and saying, "Hey, look at we've got, um, we understand what you're going to do in your first 90 days," and that's an entirely such a strong onboarding that you can do with somebody that you're setting them up for success, and they're going to stay longer. Because guess what? Nobody else is doing that. All right, so let's talk about a framework. So I'm going to run through a 5-step process for designing 30, 60, 90-day performance metrics. So I'm going to do the steps first. So step 1, define your core competencies and business outcomes. Step 2, break into phases. And when I say that, break down the 30, 60, and 90 days. I'm going to walk you through that. Step 3 is write the job description, then collaborate with the stakeholders. Step 4 is to use during the interview and onboarding process. This is your this is your I mean, like this is like a highly competitive advantage to having that. And step 5, I'm going to introduce a job description builder that we build through Interru and give you guys the opportunity to trial it. So let's start with defining your core competencies and business outcomes. Start with your org chart, right? Um, and what I want to encourage you to do is do a gap analysis of what is happening in your organization. Oftentimes you think you need X, and as you go through a gap analysis, you find out that maybe you don't need X because you can fill in the gap with somebody within the organization, right? Um, but if you can understand that, hey, look at what skills, what work, and what outcomes are missing, now that gives us a really clear picture of how we can back into finding the right person, right? And building out the performance metrics. So you're going to build essentially an architecture, a gap analysis around the competency that's missing or needs to be present in order for the work that's not getting done to get done. You're going to align this with your company objectives. Use your rocks, KPIs, OKRs, whatever it is that you use in your business. One objective, and you're going to do 3 to 5 key results. And I'll link another kind of Wikipedia page on how to do this. But essentially, one big objective for 90 days. If you have a 90-day rock that needs to be accomplished or 90-day KPIs that you've already set into motion, perfect. Now we're just going to break these down. So let's go into step 2. We're going to break it into phases. Let's talk about 30, 60, 90 days. So 30 days. I like to sometimes break it down to 7, 15, and 30 within that 30-day process. Because if somebody's not going to work out, I want to know as quickly as possible. So in the first 7 days, can they accomplish something within your organization in the onboarding that makes you go, okay, look at it. They had a 7-day goal to do this. They did it in 3. Boom. All right. We've already set a goal. We can recognize that and we can share the outcome with everybody, right? It's a great stand-up recognition that you can give somebody quickly that automatically makes them feel like they're part of the team. So in the 30-day goal, you want to focus on learning and integration. So you want them to demonstrate that they can learn the business quickly. You want to have content for that. What content do they need to consume in the first 30 days that can get them feeling comfortable with how the business operates and what the work is that they're going to be doing? Now, I like to use the kind of for Interru. I have a book that I've written, and I have everybody read the book so they understand our process. At 30 days, at the end of the 30 days, I have them present what they've learned to the team. Just a quick 15-minute presentation about how we operate and what we do. So it gives them an idea of our methodology so that they can actually feed it back to us, right? So if they can present a learning at the end of 30 days to the team, boom, that's a great 30-day goal that you can give them that one allows you to understand how much they've learned, and two, it gives the team the opportunity to hear from that person present. So metrics. I used a formatting for metrics. So this first 90 days, you're gonna like learn or understand X tools, organizational structure. You're gonna meet with X key stakeholders. You're going to complete X amount of onboarding modules, right? It's all about onboarding your first 30 days and, hopefully having some sort of deliverable that can move the business forward. Small one. You just want to have a small goal. 60 days, we're going to focus in on applying what they learned and to getting them in the habit of contributing to the group. So a small project that supports the 90-day deliverable. By day 60, you will deliver X to the team and you will collaborate for feedback with the team. And however you guys tend to work within your team environment, if there's a lot of collaboration, great. If it's autonomous, that's fine too. But what you want to do is you want to make sure that they integrate well into the team. And then this is an interactive delivery mechanism that everybody is privy to with this in the organization. So metrics would look something like lead X small project. You're going to resolve X percentage of support tickets. You're going to propose improvements and logging of X amount of time, X amount of calls. So like the key thing in here is always have numbers that are attached to these things. You cannot have performance metrics without numbers. So you're going to keep in mind, each goal is going to be specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time bound, right? Let's go to the 90-day goal, right? We're going to talk about owning and delivering, right? So this is going to be their first project they're going to deliver. So this is their first real deliverable that is tied to a business goal. Again, you want to have small goals that lead up to that, and your 90-day project is going to be a measurable thing. So for salespeople, they're going to achieve X amount of revenue or cost savings by kicking off a new process, mentoring at least one new peer, completing X amount of sales driven calls. Um, so it's going to be specific to a deliverable that you can measure and that you can ultimately say at the end of those 90 days, yes, this is a great hire. Now, of course, we want to know this sooner. If we know it's 7 days, we save a lot of time. But you have to keep in mind that most people get hired. The ones that fail end up saying between 6 and 10 months. So if we're cutting down that time frame down to 90 days, if somebody doesn't work out, you just saved your company a whole lot of time, um, and headache and heartache, right? And you know what? The truth is, candidates don't want to be in roles either where they're not successful. So you're saving them a whole lot of time, headache, and heartache as well. All right. So step three, we're going to talk about writing the job descriptions and then collaborating with the stakeholders. So replace your generic statements like, um, you're going to, like, in this role, you're going to be responsible for XYZ PDQ with specific metrics. Now, we actually put these in the job description. In order for you to be successful in this role, these are your 30, 60, 90-day metrics that you're going to achieve. Lead first sprint by day 60, increase future output by 20% by day 90. Highlight what success looks like in the first 90 days. This is going to be the thing they're going to check off and go, look at, I'm 85 days in and I've already crushed my 90-day goals. What's next? Boom. Now you've already set the stage for them being successful. Great. So let's do our next 90-day goals. Accountability is the best leadership or management tool that you can ever possibly imagine. Holding accountable makes your job as manager so much easier. Now, after you've written those performance metrics and you've put them in the job description, I want you to get back together with the hiring managers, with the HR, with the stakeholders, and we want to validate the feasibility of these goals, right? Have the managers adjust the numbers, tailor them to the role, tailor them to the group, tailor them to what's ever really achievable, right? And then agree upon them. And when everybody agrees upon them, boom, now everybody knows that these are what we're going to hold people accountable to. If they miss the goals, then your question is going to be, what's your corrective action? And if they cannot correct the goals, then you simply release them or graduate them to a new or a better opportunity for them, right? Step four, we're going to use this during the interview and onboarding process. All right. So create your skills interview or your working session. We do a working session around the 30 or 60-day deliverable. Think of an actual problem that you have that's a real problem right now. And what you're going to do is you're going to set the stage for accountability. You're going to understand their problem solving abilities and how well they prepare for things, how well they're able to kind of interact with the team and collaborate with them to solve a problem, right? So if you can tie it into your 30, 60, 90-day goals, I like to tie it around my 30-day, like maybe even my first deliverable at 30 days. You can use this during the onboarding process to track progress, right? Schedule 30, 60, 90-day check-ins. And I highly encourage you to build this into a mechanism with your daily huddles or stand-ups, and then adapt the targets as needed. If somebody is crushing their goals right off the bat, then you have a conversation about, hey, look at, in 45 days, you already accomplished your 90-day goals. That's a great problem to have, by the way. So now we just need to adjust them, and we need to maybe raise them or lower them. If you're getting feedback that, hey, look at, we don't have enough leads to effectively be able to hit my 30-day goals, then adjust accordingly. But again, it gives you the ability to manage that process. Step 5, go to Interru, Interru.ai, and there's a tab for job description builder. Now you can build all these on your own, but we've done a whole lot of work building out the Interru AI job description builder. And what it does is essentially builds, we built an algorithm that essentially can take your common job description and build it into realistic performance metrics that you can essentially take to your leadership and say, hey, look, here's what the performance metrics that we built. And let's take these performance metrics and move them into the next generation. Like, get your approval, get your buy-in, and like, let's start getting these job descriptions or these job posts out to the public. You're going to find that the performance metrics get people to lean in much harder than you can possibly imagine. And I don't know about you, but I'd rather have 4 to 5 really good candidates rather than 300 autoresponders and people who are just kind of, they're not going to be able to, they're not going to thrive in my organization, right? So let's save everybody's time here. So here's what I'd like to do with this episode. Drop me an email, Rick, R-I-C-K, at Interru, Interru.ai. And let's set up a quick phone call, and I'll give you a test run on this. I will give you a free job description that you can run. Right now, like, we've been going gangbusters with this, and the results that we've been getting for our customers has been unbelievable in that candidates, we actually had one customer last week that had one role open. They got 4 candidates. 2 of them were standouts. And so they just made the decision to hire both of them because essentially they didn't want to turn away high performing talent. And they created a role for the second person. All right, so key takeaways. Generic job descriptions will be ignored by high performers. They don't care about how great you are. They care about what's in it for me, right? Performance metrics speak to driven, high-performing people, right? I don't know about you, but I don't want people working at my company who are not driven or high-performing candidates. So why not write to that person? Let's engage that person. Let's get that person interested in our organization so that when you do ask the question, which I don't recommend, of why you want to work here, they've got a really legitimate, true answer rather than, what they did research on that is what I like to call circumstantial evidence. And then finally, like a structured 30, 60, 90-day framework will improve not only your recruitment, but also your company performance and retention. All right, I want to thank you for tuning in this week's episode of Higher Power Radio. A quick, or actually huge thanks to our team, Brian Colburn, Andrea Ballin, and Ayla Gerard. If you're listening to the podcast, please subscribe, review, and share. After all, this show's for you. And we want to continue to bring you valuable content week after week. You can check us out further at Hire, H-I-R-E, Power, P-O-W-E-R, radio, radio.com, or you can drop me an email at rick@intertru, Intertru.ai. I'm your host, Rick Gerard, and you have been listening to the Higher Power Radio Show. Aloha.
Thank you for listening to Higher Power Radio. Catch our LinkedIn Live show every Tuesday at noon, or download the podcast on iHeartRadio, iTunes, YouTube, or your favorite podcast platform. We appreciate you joining us on Higher Power Radio with your guide to hiring success, Rick Gerard.